Hi guys, and welcome back to another championship prediction video. Now, we're moving on to round 8. It's going quite quickly, but round 7, a quick recap, and it's very quick because I got no scores correct. It was quite a disappointing week and I really struggled, so hopefully we can get something this week. Let's see what I've predicted. All of the games this weekend are on Saturday. So starting off with the early kick-off, it's Hull versus Sheffield United. And for this one, Hull have failed to score now in 6 games since their opening day win. They haven't scored a goal and they need to find the back of the net quickly because if they don't score, they're going to get relegated. Sheffield United, they seem to have sorted out their goals. They did get a 2-2 draw against Preston, with Preston equalising in the last minute. But they've sorted out their goals, and that was an important thing for them. With Hull not scoring any goals in 6 matches, I can't see Hull scoring here. So I've got to back Sheffield United, and I'm going for a 2-0 win. Moving on to the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and starting with Barnsley versus Blackburn. Now this one, I think it'll be a tight game. Barnsley have drawn 3 of their last 4 games against QPR, Blues and Stoke, who are 3 teams who are doing quite well this season. So they're not doing too badly at all. Blackburn, they've only lost 1 game all season and it was against West Brom, which is to be expected. So they've also had a very good start to the season. Something's telling me Barnsley are going to get something here. I don't think they'll win it, but I think they'll just scrape a point. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw. Moving on to Cardiff versus Bournemouth next. And Cardiff, they've lost 2 of their last 3 games against Bristol City, and the latest one was against Coventry. They've seemed to struggle. They were in good form at the start of the season, but it sort of slipped a bit now. And I think that's going to go in Bournemouth's favour. Bournemouth, they're unbeaten and they just look very strong. They started a bit shaky, but they were still getting points, and now they're just easily walking past people. They did have 2 draws around the middle of the season, which was against Hull and Blackpool, 2 newly promoted teams, which if they'd have done better in those games, they'd be top of the league. But I think they've got enough here to beat this Cardiff team. So I'm going for Bournemouth to win 2-1. Moving on to Derby versus Stoke now. And Derby, they've started the season okay considering what was expected of them. They got a shock 0-0 draw with West Brom. God knows how the ball didn't end up in the back of the net because West Brom were all over them. But Derby held out, got the 0-0, got the point, and it's a very good point to get. Stoke, they've started very well. They've got 2 points per game so far this season, and they're really flying. But it's difficult because Derby, they've only conceded 6 goals in 7 games, which is a very, very strong defence. Will they be able to keep Stoke out? I'm not so sure. I think they'll hold out 0-0 for a while, but I think Stoke will just wear them down and get that goal. But I only think they'll get 1. I'm going for Stoke to win this 1-0. Next, we go to Craven Cottage, where Fulham are taking on Reading. Now, Fulham, they've recovered from that 1-0 loss against Blackpool. Their last game, they beat Blues 4-1. Wasn't a 4-1 game. It was pretty even, to be honest. We created a lot of chances. They created a few, but they just kept getting us on the counter-attack, and they were clinical up front, which was the difference in the end. So they've got some goals back in their team after not scoring against Blackpool, and I think they'll continue to score here. They're top of the league, and they've got too much quality for this side and the league. Reading, however, they have scored in every game but 1 in the league so far this season. So I am thinking they're going to score, and John Swift got a goal and an assist in the win against Peterborough in midweek, and he's just carried on his great form. He's like a one-man wrecking crew. So I'm backing Reading to score in this game, but I think Fulham have too much. So I'm going 3-1 to Fulham. Now the next game is my wild card. Huddersfield versus Forest. I think for this game, Huddersfield, they've started brilliantly. 13 points from 7 games. I don't think anyone really expected that. You'd expect them with that form to pick up an easy win here against a struggling Forest. They're on 1 point, bottom of the table. They can't buy a point at the moment. However, Forest have sacked Chris Hughton, so this will be the first game of either a new manager if one comes in time or a caretaker manager. And I think what's going to turn Forest's season around from here is that the players, I don't think they wanted to play under Chris Hughton anymore. I think they were sort of struggling to get going, and inevitably I think they sort of down tools. Now that a new manager is going to come in at some point, they're going to want to impress that manager and sort of say, I deserve to be in this team. Which is why I think they'll do okay here. Chris Hughton, I do want to touch on it. I do feel bad for him because I like him. I loved him when he was the Blues manager, but some appointments just don't work. Karanka for Blues. Before Blues, he had a great record in the Championship. He was a good manager, but it just didn't work. And sometimes that's how it goes. And that's what I believe happened with Hughton at Forest. But for Forest, I think the players are going to want to prove themselves to whoever comes in. So I'm backing them to get a point here, and it's a bit of a shock point. I'm going for a 2-2 draw. Onto a game that I'm definitely not excited for this weekend. It's Luton versus Swansea. And sorry to the fans, but I think this is going to be so boring. Swansea, they've drawn their last 2 games 0-0. Luton, they've drawn their last 3 games. There was a 1-1, a 2-2 and a 0-0. And I just can't see any goals here. I think it's going to be a ball draw. I'm going for a 0-0. The next game is Middlesbrough versus Blackpool. And Middlesbrough, they didn't start great, but they picked up a win 2-0 against Forest midweek, which inevitably got Chris Hughton the sack. And I think Middlesbrough will push on from here. Blackpool, they've had a really weird week. They went from giving Fulham their first loss, which was 1-0, to then losing 3-0 to Huddersfield. And they're quite unpredictable. I'm not sure if Blackpool could win this game comfortably, but I think it's more likely they're going to lose it. So I'm going for Middlesbrough to win 2-1. Moving on to the next game, it's Millwall versus Coventry. And I think this could be quite a tight game. Millwall, they've drawn their last 2 and they're sort of falling back into that pattern of being the draw specialists. Coventry, they've started so well this season. I don't really think many people expected it. But they've won 5 out of their first 7 games. So they're absolutely flying at the moment. For this one, I think Millwall are going to be... I think it's going to be 1-1. And Millwall are going to be happy with that and try and play it out. And I can just see Coventry snatching a late winner and winning this one 2-1. And onto the game I'm obviously excited for. It's Peterborough v Blues. Now Peterborough, they have really struggled this season. They've lost their last 4 in a row, including that 6-2 against Sheffield United. And they've only picked up 4 points so far this season, all being at home. And they've only played 3 at home, but they've won 1, drew 1, and then they lost narrowly to a last-minute winner against West Brom. So home form doesn't seem to be an issue, which makes me think maybe they're going to get something here. But Blues, we've had some great away days so far this season. We're currently unbeaten away. We beat Sheffield United 1-0 away, then Luton 5-0, and then we got a 1-1 draw with Barnsley, which we dominated. And if we had someone clinical enough then, we would have won that game quite comfortably. I think Blues are going to get the win here. A lot of people will look at this and say it's an easy fixture. I don't think it's particularly easy because Peterborough have started well at home, but I think we've started so well away that we will win this game. Peterborough, they do tend to score at home, so I think they'll score, but I think Blues are going to win this 3-1. The next match is Preston versus West Brom, and both teams have drawn their last 2 games, which is quite unfamiliar for West Brom. When they're in the Championship, they're normally winning quite a lot. West Brom are one of only 2 unbeaten teams so far, with Bournemouth, but I don't think Preston have enough here. I can see West Brom getting back to winning ways and winning this 2-1. And the final game is QPR v Bristol City. QPR started the season really well. They haven't won in their last 2 games, but I don't think it's much to worry about, as one was a 3-3 draw against Reading, where John Swift played incredibly and got a hat-trick, and the other was a 2-1 loss to Bournemouth, and Bournemouth so far undefeated. On the other hand, Bristol City, they're very unpredictable. They've had loads of different results so far. It's really mixed, but their last 2 have been draws. QPR in this one, I think they've got too much quality in their side, and I can see them winning this. So I'm going 2-0 to QPR. And that's it. So those are my predictions for round 8 of the Championship. Please let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. Put your predictions down in the comments. Please like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more Premier League and Championship content. Hopefully, there are some exciting games here, and up the Blues.